All right, guys. So I'm fixing to send out the adjusted opening round notes to everybody in the chat group, but I did want to make a quick walkthrough video. So I will show you my shots only, and there's a couple of instances where I may show you the different wind angles on the same hole. So that way, hopefully, it helps. So without further ado, let's get started. So on this account, I was able to shoot a 31 on this account. And as you can see, I was unable to drop hole 8 on this account, but I've dropped it multiple times. So you'll see the adjustments, and it will be in the notes. So, all right, let's get started. So, hole number 1. Hole 1 drive, so it's going to be plus 20 elevation. Actually, let me go ahead and switch to this account so that way we're talking about the same. Okay, so it will be plus 20 elevation, and I'll go ahead and put my grid lines on there so that way everybody can see it. And then it'll be max everything. So it'll be max back and as much left as you can get, which I usually end up with about 1 bar less than max. For some reason, I can't get both max back and max left. But now you want to have the red ring cutting the rough before you push into OP. It's a pretty aggressive landing spot. I'm just going to warn you, if you hit great left, you're in trouble. But it's max OP and then perfect shot. I actually hit great left. So you'll notice I come in a little bit left of or right of the pin. I have dropped this as a hole-in-one. So again, landing spot is the red ring cutting the rough at max distance before you get into overpower. Max backspin, max left spin, max overpower, max left curl, and perfect shot. If you hit great right, it will be a chip in. So either your rapier or your endbringer. If you hit perfect, you should be on the green and it's an easy putt, or somewhat easy putt. If you hit great left, you may be in trouble. Not in the bunker, but in the rough. So just be aware. If you hit horrible great left, you're going to be in trouble. I have yet to hit the bunker with this shot. So that's why I switched to this, because I don't have to worry about getting stuck in that bunker. So that's how I'll play hole number 1. And again, that's 20% elevation, max numbers. So let's move on to hole number 2. And I'm going to show you the hole number 2. So we will be playing with a wind ball. It's plus 5% elevation, max numbers. A 5-1-2 ball or a 5-2-2, it doesn't matter. Just a 5, it needs to be a 5-1-2 or a 5-2-2, 5-3-2, it doesn't matter. You don't need that much side spin. So it's going to be 1 top and a half right. So you see me getting my spin here. We're going to pull 6.2 rings. Now pay close attention on this hole because there are 2 different wind angles. You see how the wind right now is pushing towards the end? You want to be back far enough that you're about halfway or so with the red ring. If you get the gold ring close to the rough line and you slightly overpower it, you will launch this shot. See, you can see I'm actually a little bit overpowered here, but because I was far enough back, I was able to catch the rough. Nice roll, center of pin. So that is with the wind angle kind of at the 12:20 mark or 12:30 mark, if that makes sense, because the wind was towards the end. So let's see it with, I think this other one has the, so here's another hole-in-one on hole 2. I'm dropping this one pretty consistently, but you have to pay attention because Playdemic will send out different wind angles. So this one's at, yeah, this is the same wind angle, unfortunately. So if you get the straight north wind where it's kind of in between the eye and the N, or straight at the eye, then you don't want to use the half right. You only want to use just a smidge of right spin. So this one's closer to eye. Yeah, so this one's it. Yeah, this one's it. So you can see I'm not using half right. I'm just using just a touch of it. And I'm actually going at the left edge of the pin as well. So this is the different wind angle. And again, that was +5 max. And come in, same line, and center the pin. So you have to make sure, especially on opening rounds and weekend rounds, Playdemic will change wind angles. And so you have to make sure that on these very, very slight wind angle changes that you're prepared or ready for them. So that's how I'm going to play hole number 2. So hole number 3, I'm using the blast off method. It's on the notes. So I'm using an APOC. On a couple of accounts, I do have an APOC 5, so I'm still doing it with the APOC 5. It's your choice. You're guaranteed to be, even if you make a perfect shot, you're not going to have the top spin to roll out of the rough into the green, into the fairway on the backside and for the chip in. So be prepared to make your Nirvana attempt at an albatross. So I have made the Nirvana albatross shot, not on this count. On this count, unfortunately, I was trying to dial in my Embringer shot and missed both times. But nevertheless, so I am using the blast off, the aggressive approach, with my APOC 5, 6, and 7 accounts. There are 2 different wind angles, and I'll show you both of them. You have to make sure that you recognize when you get the different wind angle, because it will potentially either send you in the water or it's going to send you far, far left into the bunker. And either way it goes, it's a disaster. So I'm trying to help you avoid those situations. So let's look for the first one. So this is going to be kind of this is the wind that I see more often. And this account does have an APOC 6, so you'll see it was able to roll out. That's the chip. Yeah, there we go. Hole 3 blast off. I don't use the wind calc for this. So what I'm looking for is the wind angle. It's always going to be max top spin, and it's always going to be 3 left spin. My landing spot will vary. With the wind that is kind of a northerly wind and not such a hard side wind, I'm looking for the gold ring to barely touch the rough at max overpower. So let's watch and see. I have a small wind here of a 9.5, so I switched to a globe. So max top, 3 left. You can go up to about 12.5 mile per hour wind. So you need at least 11 to make it. So I was looking for, it's half curl, 50% total curl. Perfect shot. So if you pause the video and look back, I was looking for my gold ring there to touch. It was on the fairway, just touching the rough. So let's watch it one more time. And so that way you can look at the wind angle Make sure that you're paying attention to the wind angle, because this hole has screwed me on the opening rounds. And I know it's done some other guys, but knowing the wind angles really helps. Dadgummit. Stop pushing the chip in. I'm reliving the nightmare of missing the albatross. So if you look at my wind angle, whenever I shift and I get towards my landing spot, notice where my wind is. It's going to be pointing at the W, but it's not past the W per se. See how it's like towards the W and the I? Now look for my landing spot, gold ring touching the rough line. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. 50% curl. And I want to try and hit perfect. And there you go. And you'll notice there's actually a little bit of a lip right before it goes into the rough. So it hits that lip and it kind of bounces up, helps you get over the rough. And now you're within chip range. So what I've started doing is, I was trying to make yardage notes and do all this funky math, right? And all that. Look, I'm getting away from that. At the end of the day, I'm going to take max top spin on the chip in. I'm going to back it up, and I'm going to put the tip of the ball guide line towards the hole, and then go from there. So you'll see me miss my my albatross chip here, because I was trying to figure out yardages. But 500-yard drive could be in 50 different spots, depending on how far left and right you go. So I went too far to the right of the pin there. I should have been on the left-hand side because of the wind push, even at this small chip in. It just pisses me off. That, and I think I missed. I think I hit great. Yeah, I did. I hit great. So I was on the right side of the pin, and I hit great right, and that's what you get, right? So that shit will piss you off. So anyway, all right, so I'm going to show you the other hole 3 wind. So this is with the hard W. Noticed how the other one was pointing at the W and the I whenever I got towards my landing spot. On this one, you'll notice that it's way past the W. So if you see this wind, again, I have to switch, I think, I had to switch to a globe because I didn't have a strong enough wind. But with this wind, you want to shift your landing spot further to the right. See how the wind is pointing past the W? So now I want the top of the yellow ring hitting that rough line. Hits the lip, gets over, and close to the fringe. So that's your 2 wind angles. One of it is with a hard W. One of it is at the W and the I. If you'll notice there on that one, we'll show it again. I was actually pretty close to the bunker, so I might shift over even more and put the red ring. With that hard of a westerly wind, I might put the red ring, because if I would have hit great left there, more than likely I would have hit bunker. So see how hard that wind is blowing to the left? And I center punched it on perfect. But if I would have hit great left there, watch, boom. See how close I was to that bunker? So I try to grate proof drives, but sometimes it's just, some of them are like threading the needle. So anyway, so that's hole 3 blast off. That's the only way I'm going to play that hole. It is in the notes. There's a conservative approach for guys that maybe don't feel comfortable with an overpower shots and snow globes and all that. So there's a conservative drive and approach in there. I'm not going to update it because I'm just not going to do it for any of my drives or approach shots from here on. for this tournament. So if you want to take the notes and, you know, write your own yardage markers on there, you're more than welcome to do so. You can kind of see where a baseline where I started it from, but I'm not doing it anymore. So I'm only going to use the drives that I've shown you on hole 3. So let's move on to hole 4. So hole 4 is one that I have started to drop somewhat pretty consistently. I suck at dunking. So I've never liked it. I always either bang the pin or I bounce, you know, right before the hole and backspin into a bunker or something. It's just, I suck at dunking. There's some guys, maybe you were good at it. And I know that there's some guys like Derek and some of the other guys and Jason are just awesome at dunking. I suck at it. So what I've started doing is, on the approach shot, I've started using the in-bringer chip in, and if I'm too far away from the pin and I end up in thorn range, then I use the thorn chip in. But I'm not doing dunking anymore. There are some dunks yardage markers on here so you can see it. So that way, if you're good at dunking, you've got them. It's a baseline. I think there's some posted in the whole chat, so if you want. But anyway, let's get on to the drive. So on the drive, with an APOC 5, 6, and 7, you want to be at the plus 15 yard mark, red ring touching the rough, 6 top spin, max left spin with a power 4 ball. So like the football promo that they gave out for this tournament. So a 3-2-4 ball works perfect. So, and then 50% curl. So let's watch the drive. Plus 10. So you'll see me pull 7.3 rings. So max left, 6 top, which if you have an APOC 6, it's easy, or APOC 5, it's easy. It's max top, max left. I'm looking for the plus 15 yard mark. Red ring beside the rough. There you go, plus 15. And then I pull 7.3 rings, or I better. There you go, 7.3 rings. And then I'm looking for how much overpower that I'm gonna have to put on. So I need just a touch here. I actually use too much overpower. And only 50% ball curl. I use too much overpower and too much curl here, but in the end it works out for me. Oh, and I hit great left. So it's kind of a bad way all the way around. But great left still, as long as it's not horrible great left, still is okay. So on the sheet, you'll notice there's 369 to 371 is in-bringer, but I hit great left here. And by hitting great left, I still ended up at 369 yards, but I was further away from the pin at 369 yards. So I ended up in thorn chip-in range. So if you end up in the thorn, it's 0 elevation. If you're in-bringer range, it's plus 20 elevation max numbers. So the green here sucks. Don't put your landing spot on the green. Have your first bounce land on the fringe. And again, if it's in-bringer range, it's plus 20 elevation, max numbers. If you're in thorn range, it's 0 elevation and 3 backspin. No more than 3. It will look like your ball guide line is going like completely through the hole, and it looks like you're just going to blast it. The wind will compress your ball guide line, so you can't necessarily trust your ball guide here. So I'm looking, so I'm at min. I want to bounce on the fringe. I want to try and avoid that green. So I'll add my 3 backspin. And it doesn't show on the replay, but my ball guide line while I was playing live was like going all the way through. So I pulled 2.3 rings. Bounce right where I wanted to, and there you go. So hopefully that helps. And let's see. Ooh, did I not save hole 5? I thought I saved. Oops. 7, 6, 5. Okay. All right. So this is. Let me get my grid lines off here. So is that? Where did hole 5 go? Sorry, guys. Bear with me a second. Apparently, I skipped right over hole 5. Okay. All right. So this is it. So before I get into the replay, so it's a QB with a kingmaker. It's 1-to-1 minus 0.5 rings. So if your wind is 8 miles an hour, you're only going to pull 7.5 rings. I do not use the wind app for this. I use a standard calculator. So whatever the wind is, you pull that minus a half a ring. Now, if your wind is under 8 miles an hour, you want to use 6 backspin, 5.5 right. If your wind is over 8 miles an hour, it's 5.5 back, 5.5 right, and then the red ring cutting the bunker. So this is a small wind. So you'll see me add my spin, I think, first. Yeah. So I'm under 8, so it's 6 back, 5.5 right. And I do not get my half right there. I get 5.25. And so you'll notice that I miss it. And you'll see my landing spot, my second bounce is kind of 3/4 of the way into that green square. So here I have to pull 6.8 rings is what I pulled on this one. Because 7.3 minus a half a ring is 6.8. And you'll notice I miss just to the right of the pin. So wind under 8 is 6 backspin. Wind over 8 is 5.5 back, 5.5 right, because the wind will help slow your ball down. So I've dropped this one, I don't know, maybe 50% of the time or so since I started paying attention to that, to the hard wind. So the big wind and small wind on this hole. So that's how I'm going to play hole 5. So now we can move on to hole 6. And what in the world? Oh, I screwed up all my replays. Okay. All right. So hole 6 drive. So on hole 6, it's going to be plus 20, but it's going to be mid numbers, not max. So if you pull mid, you'll be okay on the drive, but your approach shot will be way off and you'll be confused. So, because I've done it. I'm just telling you how I've done it. So it's going to be 6 tops, which with an extra mile 8, it's max top and 1 left. But if you have an extra mile 9, it's 6 top and 1 left. So I should pull 4.6 rings. So you want the gold ring touching. Now your gold ring can touch anywhere, right? I mean, ultimately. But what I'm trying to find is you see how the water just comes through about halfway of that clear ring? That's what I'm looking for. And then I want to pull 4.6 rings. I actually underpulled my rings there. So 325. So you'll notice yardage markers on the notes. If the yardage marker is on the notes, that's because I've dropped it. That means that I've already gotten an albatross sometime in qualifying rounds or opening rounds using that yardage marker. So here you'll see me lip it. And the reason that I lip it is because on this approach shot, so from, it's going to be plus 10 with a sniper. On the approach shot, you want the red ring touching the rough with one back, one right, always. Now, your percentage of club will vary. So this one, I believe I used 52% of club. 8.7 rings, so I should pull 8.8 here. So I'll use one back, one right. Now, I prefer to pull rings, but here, because of that bush, I have to push. And whenever I push, I'm not as accurate as I am whenever I'm pulling rings. So I'm looking for 8.8 rings. And I don't know if you noticed there or not, but I don't get all of my rings. I actually end up short. And ultimately, that's what cost me an albatross here. Do you see that? So if I would have pulled that additional 0.1 of a ring, it would have been centered. It would have center punched that pin, and then there's your albatross. So that's how I'll play hole 6. Hole 7, we have switched, so you will not need the wind app for hole 7. So hole 7, this is how I'm going to play hole 7 from here on out. It's going to be the katana. It's going to be a 1-to-1 ring adjustment. It's going to be max left, 1.5 back, and my landing spot, what I'm looking for is just where it turns from the plus 1 yard mark to the 0 with the sniper. And then 1-to-1 on your ring pull. No curl, no overpower, and you should end up about 220 yards. So katana, max left, 1.5 back. These holes are set up for these balls. So if you switch a ball, you need to switch your markers. So I'm looking for the plus 0, so I'm at plus 1. I'm looking. Plus 0 right there. Blue ring touches, 8.8 rings. No overpower, no curl, and I want to try and hit perfect. I hit horrible great here. That was like a 2-ring great right. So I end up with 222 yards, but I'm 222, that extra 2 yards puts me way closer to the rough there. Now on the approach shot, there's a funnel, and typically you can find the funnel really easy if you start off with 2.5 top, 3 left, find the funnel, wiggle it back and forth, make sure that the funnel is sticky, and then you want to pull 1-to-1 rings again here. So 3 left, 2.5 top. I'm looking for the funnel. There it is, I found it. rings, so it's 8.6 rings. Your spins here, and beeline straight to the hole. So your spins here are a baseline. You may need to tweak them. It's just to try and help you find that funnel. Once you find that funnel, then you're pretty much golden. So we've dropped this one with a great right, and a great left. But at the end of the day, if you hit horrible great left, be prepared, because that ball is going to launch on you and it's going to go way out into no man's land. If you hit horrible great right, heaven help you, I don't know where you're going to end up. It's not going to be good. So you want to try and hit as close to perfect as possible on that. But it is somewhat great proof if it's one ring great. So that's how I'm going to play hole 8. I'm not going to use the blast off method. If you want to see those replays, they are in the hole chats. So okay, so hole 8. I'm going to leave the options on there because I know some of the guys are using the different options. So I'm going to leave the notes on there. So there's a sniper option, there's a centurion option, and then there is a wind ball option. I was starting to get really close with it, and then Tommy came out with a video yesterday, I think, yeah. And whenever he came out with that video, I dropped it 90% of the time. And there's plenty of other guys that are doing the same thing. They're able to drop it a ton of times. So this is the one that you'll find with multiple confirmed drops on the notes. It's a +5 elevation with a kingmaker and a sniper. Max numbers. So you want to start with a half a back and a half left, ball guide going to the hole, and then your red ring touching the rough. Once you find that landing spot, then don't change your landing spot, change your spin to one back spin, one left, and then your max numbers +5 elevation, hit perfect, and you should be good. So you'll actually see me lip it here. And hopefully you'll notice why. If not, I'll tell you after. So 8.9 rings, so I should pull 9.6. So I start with my half back and half left. Looking for my landing spot with the red ring, ball guide going to the hole. And then one back, one left. .6 rings. So what happened there was I had zoomed in too much, and so I couldn't pull rings anymore. So with me doing that, I missed to the left of the hole because I over pulled my rings. I ended up pulling about 9.8, 9.7, 9.8 rings there instead of the 9.6 that I should have pulled. So because I zoomed in too close. So, but that shot drops, for me anyway, 90% of the time. So that's how I'll be playing hole 8. Let's move on to hole 9. So hole 9, this is one, to be honest, I'm still working on. I have dropped an albatross here. I'm pretty much guaranteed an eagle on this hole, and that's kind of what I'm counting on. I'm just counting on to get my eagle, but if I can work into an albatross for weekend rounds, that's going to obviously drastically help me in placement. So the notes that you see here will be me working towards that albatross. So what I've done here is it's +10 elevation with an APOC 5, 6, and 7. And the approach shot is the sniper. It is not the rough bump. the rough bump option for me was starting to piss me off. I was all over the place. I was to the left of the pin, to the right of the pin. My elevations were all over the place. My yardage markers were all over, and I scrapped it all. I got pissed off, and I said, I'm done with it. So I was able, here you'll see me drop an eagle. But I have dropped an albatross twice on this hole yesterday, and because I've already played all my opening rounds. So I was able to drop an albatross yesterday twice, working off of these notes. So hole 9 drive will be with a Kingmaker and the APOC 5, 6, and 7. So you want 6 top, and here I only use 5, but the notes are going to be updated. So you want to try and have 6 top and 1.5 right spin to get you closer. And then I end up pulling 5.8 rings here. So here, because I only used 5 top, I was relying on more overpower. I don't like overpower, especially when I'm going into weekend rounds, because the needle gets glitchy. The other thing here you did not see, I did not push up to max. So you want to plus 10 elevation. I know this was a bad example, but this is me working it out, right? So it was plus 10 elevation, max overpower. You want to put the red ring next to the rough. 6 top spin, which an APOC 5 is max top spin, and then 1.5 right, and then about 50% overpower, so that way your needle isn't shaky. And after you make your wind adjustment, push back up to max, because that will help you get that extra yardage. You notice here I ended up with 389 yards. You should hopefully end up with about 405 yardage. At 405 yards, you want to have 4.5 backspin, or I'm sorry, 4 backspin, 3 left spin, and then offset your ball guide a half a square to a square left of the pin at 0 elevation. So because I knew I screwed up on my drive here, yeah, this is not a good video at all. I shouldn't have even showed you guys this one. Let me see. Yeah, so it's in the yardage markers, or it's in the notes where my landing spot is. If I can come across, I'll switch back over to a different account, and then I'll post a video for you guys in the hole 9 chat. But you want to be landing on the fairway with 4 back, 3 left, and then your ball guide should be 1 square left of the hole. And then at 405 yards on your drive is mid numbers, and then perfect shot, and you should either drop the albatross or come really close to it. So that's how I'll be playing hole 9. So, all right, guys. So hope that helps. I'll be sending out the notes here as soon as I get off this video. Hope they work, and wish you guys the best of luck in the opening rounds if you have left, and weekend rounds.